Okay, so next we're going to talk about shelf arrangement, and this is super important. If you're going to do this retail marketing style of shelving, you're going to have to follow the ways that they do it in the comic book shops. So we're going to start with manga, and manga is probably the easiest one to fix because it's very clearly labeled. You're going to sort it out alphabetically first by title. People don't know these Japanese authors very well, and I might know that Rumiko Takahashi writes Inuyasha and Ranma, but people aren't going to know to look for Takahashi to find those titles. They're going to look for Inuyasha because that's what they read. So within that, you're going to break them down into their respective volume numbers. And the Japanese publishers are really clear about which volume you're on, and they have great big huge numbers on the spine of the book. So you're going to break things down. It's going to be Bleach 1, 2, 3, Death Note 1, 2, 3, Naruto 1, 2, 3, all on the shelf alphabetically. Okay, so now we're going to talk about probably the most complicated section of shelving, and that's the superhero titles. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to sort them out by the hero or the team. And that means that we're going to put all the Batmans together, all the Avengers together, all of the Supermen together, all the X-Men together. Then you're going to sort it out by volume numbers. Now, not every one of them is going to have a volume number, but some of them do. So like JLA, the Justice League of America, almost all of those have a volume number. Same thing with like Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man. Those all have volume numbers on the side, but you might find that there's a lot of them that just don't. So you'll have to break it then into subtitles. Now the bigger problem comes in when you're sorting everything out according to these different variations within one family of superheroes. So X-Men is probably like the biggest, most awful and glaring example. X-Men has at least 6 or 7 different runs with adjectives slapped onto the end, or the beginning. So there's X-Men, there's X-Men, Astonishing X-Men, there's New X-Men, Ultimate X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men Legacy, X-Men this and that and the other. And each of those is a different story. It's a completely different world, and they may not even overlap at all. So you have to break those down into their respective series, but keep all of those X-Men titles together because it's a franchise within itself. Okay. So where superhero titles presented the problem of having multiple series within the same suite of heroes, you run into a totally different set of problems with comic strip and cartoon books. So what I tend to do, and what a lot of the comic book and retail shops do for the comic strips and cartoon books, are to sort them first into their respective series. So you want to put all the Boondocks together, all the Far Side together, all the Garfield together, all the Family Guy and the Simpsons. All of those things should be shelved together. Then you're going to sort it out into subtitles. What you find a lot of times with these anthologies is that they don't necessarily have a sequence to them. They'll just be collections, random collections. So putting them into a subtitle order is about as far as you can go. Okay, so here's where call numbers come back into play. When you're working with graphic novels and adaptations of other works into a graphic format, call number order is probably the easiest route to go. So you'll find that there will be graphic nonfiction and graphic fiction, and all you have to do is just follow that call number exactly as it's written. So Fun Home is a 92, it's a biography. Put it with at the beginning of that section, then just follow all of the other numbers down the line, then start doing all of your fiction titles, and then put all of those graphic novel fiction titles in according to the call number, which would be alphabetical by author's last name. So now that I've bored you to death with shelf arrangement, let's talk about how you get to know these popular series. Just start by reading something. Look at the blurbs on the back of the books, or call me up and ask me, like, hey, what should I read? And I'll tell you, if you're into Blood and Guts, you'll want to look at 30 Days of Night or Battle Royale in the shelf with adult collections. If you're into something that's a little bit more down to earth, you might want to take a look at the With the Light series, or look at Alison Bechdel's memoir, Fun Home, which is a memoir about her life, her father, and discovering upon her father's death his secret, sexual past, as a gay man, and her growing up, becoming a lesbian, and finding this weird synergy between her and her father. Look to the stuff that's on TV. You'll know what's popular when the kids come in asking for it. But if you take a look at what's on Cartoon Network and what's on Adult Swim, you'll see what they're watching. And that's the stuff that we're buying. So you'll see Inuyasha and Bleach and Full Metal Alchemist, Death Note. A lot of these Japanese titles that these kids are just clamoring for are on Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. Take a look at the YALSA graphic novel lists. Every year, YALSA creates a graphic novel list, great graphic novels for teens. We tend to buy a lot of the stuff that's on those lists, and check it out. If you're interested more in the hot off the press information, take a look at icv2.com. That's ICV2.com. I guess. No, it's not. I don't know. Anyways, look at icv2.com. They're the industry retail side of things. They're looking at the publishing numbers. They're looking at the sales numbers. They're looking to tell you what's going on in the market and how it's affecting publishing and sales. And you'll never find anything faster about what's happening in the comic book world than through ICV2. Look at Publishers Weekly. If you get Publishers Weekly, they have a recurring graphic novel list in there. And also, too, now the New York Times has a graphic novel and independent comic book, not independent, but a weekly comic book list of what's hot. So check those out. Also, too, if you're lucky enough to be around a comic book shop, stop into your local one and ask about the Diamond comic previews. Diamond is the wholesaler for most all of the graphic novels and comic books produced and released in the United States. In fact, they're kind of a monopoly on it in the retail world. And their comic book previews books are the size of like a catalog. I mean, they are a catalog, but they're the size of like a small phone book. Have you ever seen the Shonen Jump or the Shoujo Beat manga periodicals? It's about that thick with an extra supplement for Marvel Comics. It's huge. And, when it comes right down to it, you can't get any closer than going to the fans. So attend a comic book convention. There's a lot of them that happen around here. Baltimore Comic-Con is pretty big. And there's a retailer summit hosted by Diamond Comics at the Baltimore Comic-Con pretty much every year. It's happening, I believe, in September this year. So check that out for sure. Also, too, if you're interested in learning more about anime, there's a whole bunch of anime conventions that happen right here in and around DC. The biggest one of them is Otakon, and that happens in Baltimore. That's Otakon, Otakon. And you will be completely floored when you see the vast numbers of people that go to Otakon. There's also Anime USA, which is a little bit smaller. It's usually hosted at one of the hotels here in town. And Katsucon, Katsucon, Katsucon is also another anime convention that happens usually around February. But check out your local anime conventions and comic book conventions and get to know the fans and find out what they're into. You might be surprised. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope that this has been an informative tutorial for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to call me at Watha T Daniel. And this is Eric. Later.